A few weeks back, I and Mr. T went on a day game trip to Uganda, a place no day gamer has ever been on a day game trip to. At least we couldn't find evidence of such a trip. And there we learned two new things about getting laid on dates, one of which goes contrary to everything else that's being taught in the day game world. One of the basic rules is don't try to change the girl's mind using logic. Try to do it through emotions, and there are plenty of techniques that help you do that. But in Uganda, we saw sometimes that's not enough. Even when we did everything with a book, we realized that a lot of girls have very good self-control, which I kind of like and respect. If a girl had decided not to have sex with me on that day, she really won't have sex with me on that day. Unless, as we've learned, we have a logical conversation with the girl and she changes her mind based on logic. Again, this goes completely against everything that's taught in the day game world, and I've only seen such things in my life and played around with them a few times before, and even then not to such a deep extent, so this was something new and exciting. This podcast episode is simply two conversations with Mr. T. First one after he spent a night dealing with last-minute resistance and still by the morning hadn't gotten laid, and the second one after a date where he had changed his behaviors based on advice I gave him after the previous near miss. The before-after effect is so obvious. I tested the same approach on a bunch of dates, and Mr. T is still out there in Uganda running dates, so we'll do a wrap-up podcast episode where we talk about everything that happened there and the lessons we learned, probably sometime next week. And if you want to join me on a similar adventure, then I'm going on a day game trip to Mexico in January, and I still have one coaching spot available. We'll spend a week day gaming together, and I'll be teaching you everything you need to start getting laid in day game. The place I'm going to is full of tourists from the USA, Canada, all over Europe, a bunch of hot Latinas there, and many Argentines go there for work. Actually, that's how I ended up going to Argentina for 4 years in a row, because I realized that in this city, half of the hottest girls I've opened were Argentines. It's only a few hour flight away from the USA, and I do not have any other trips in 2026 planned to USA, Canada, or anywhere in Latin America. So if you are around there, then this is your opportunity to get coaching with me if you are planning to do that. You can find all the information about how coaching with me usually works, the approximate pricing, etc. by clicking the link in the description. There you'll also be able to schedule a call so we can get to know each other and talk details. And now let's jump into these two conversations with Mr. T, and as usual, Mr. T will be off the camera to preserve his privacy a little bit. So let's jump in. So yesterday you went out, you had a day game date, you're way ahead of me. I didn't pull mine, you pulled your day game date. What happened?
Okay, so for this date was late, typical, by about 30 minutes.
That's early for Uganda standards.
And so when we met, I could tell like from when we met that she was already smiley, so that's good. Getting to the restaurant, we sit down, and the first thing I did was for drinks, I ordered tea for myself. She got a rosé. I kind of challenged a little bit. I'm like, hey, what rosé are you having? Like, do you know? Because all the girls here say they like wine, but turns out they don't know shit about wine. They just ask, give me wine, and they drink whatever. So when she was asking for rosé, I asked the servant, hey, like, what do you have here? Like, what is it? And eventually she realizes that she just drinks wine and doesn't really check. And I picked the wine for her. But after that, immediately she was just asking me about me, right? But in a way that is like very, not like interviewee, but more like flirty, like, oh, so tell me about this and that. She's like, what do you do? You're a photographer? And I'm like, yeah. And then like, wait, but you're also an engineer? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, how do those two come together? And I'm like, well, I like balancing both of them, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so I basically was just DHing the whole time. But I didn't want to, I felt like it was also overkill because like basically at some point she was like, wait, you do all these things? Like, do I need to keep up? And I was like, no, like this is just an American thing. Trust me, you don't need to do any of this. So I think the first 15 minutes was just her mostly asking me or trying to figure out who I was more. Again, but like she was very touchy. Now, To be fair, I do my move, which I tell everybody I do, but which is like knees on knees.
Knees and knees, yeah.
Like literally, from the moment we sat down, my knee was on her knee.
Can you explain the move a little bit? Because
so this works well. You shouldn't be sitting interview mode, right? You should never be sitting
face
across from each other,
90
face to
degrees,
face.
right?
Yeah, 90 degrees or 45 if you can.
Yeah.
But and close enough that your knees or legs can touch. And depending, you can probably gauge the escalation comfort level based on whether she moves her leg or not. So I usually do this on a date just to like subtly have the escalation happening. And you have to be 90 degrees, or if you're sitting on a stool, same thing, right? So that was really like almost established from the beginning. While she was asking me, and like she's leaning in, I'm trying to like just sit back. And then at some point, I tried to flip the conversation because I thought I was talking too much, and I'm like, this is not about me, right? I need to like get the thing back on her.
Yeah.
So eventually I tried to ask her everything. And she says, no, I want to know about you. And I'm like, no, like I talk too much about myself. I don't want to talk about myself. That's kind of, let me find out things about her. And then slowly she kind of just got into the rhythm of talking about herself and what she likes to do. At some point, I think about 30 minutes in, she's then like, I like how you're testing my boundaries. Like, you know, your leg is on my leg.
Oh, she called it out.
She called it out.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved it. And then she's like, but no, it's okay.
No, you shouldn't have moved it though. Yeah.
No, I moved it as a tease. I was like, yeah, okay. I'm like, yeah, I was like,
okay,
oh, really?
yeah.
Okay, let me step back since you don't want your boundaries crossed. You know, I'm pretty chill. I don't need to do this. And then she's like, no, but it's okay. And then I put it back, and then she starts playing with my jewelry. The whole time she was playing with my jewelry, reaching in, reaching over to hold my hand. And so that's kind of how the date went. First 30 minutes. She got a lot more flirty. Well, she was kind of like, yeah, a bit more flirty, more touchy. And then a little bit of that is a blur. What happens? I think we were almost an hour in. I don't remember what happened the other 30 minutes, but I do know that because I had a work call at, let's say I started my date at 7, I had a work call at 10. And I think by the time I noticed I only had 2 hours, it was like coming to 8. So what I tell her is, hey, you know, I have a work call in a bit, but I'm hungry. So let's go to this place where we should eat. Right. And I picked the place which is closer to us. So I didn't go to your venue 2. I went to a different venue 2, which was like 5 minutes Uber from there. So we walk over there. And then I get us on couches where like we're facing each other. And now she while I was sitting facing forward, she's actually sitting facing me. And like she puts her foot on the couch and like starts touching my neck.
Wait, so you're on a couch next to each other, not...
No, we moved, yeah, because in the next venue, we're on a couch next to each other.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this is venue 2,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened the last 30 minutes of venue 1.
Yeah.
We just kind of wrapped up, and I was trying to set up logistics for the next spot.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so at venue 2, we're sitting next to each other on a couch, right? So now, like, the proximity is closer. She's trying to touch my neck. Or actually, she's touching my neck and then saying that, oh my God, I knew you were a bad boy. And she's like, so like, when was the last time you went on a date? And I was like, oh, like about 6 weeks ago. And when was the last time you had sex? I was like, yeah, about 6 weeks ago. And then she's like, was that a one night stand? I'm like, well, she came back twice. Does that count?
That's a decent response, yeah.
She came back twice. And then she's like, well, you know what? I like this. Like, I'm enjoying this conversation. Usually the people I go on a date with, they're boring.
Yeah, the bar here is low.
Yeah, I guess it is very low. We'll see. I need to go on another date and see how things play out. By that point, she got super, super flatty. And bring up more sexual topics. And then trying to scratch me with had long nails, and I had to like
that's like, yeah, it's basically like super on pretty much. Yeah, you told me, you messaged me wait, let me find the message.
You asked me, hey, how's the date going?
Yeah, and you say, "Oh, pulling, she's DTF."
Yeah. At that point, I think that was, we had literally just sat there, ordered food, got in one more beer, got in a beer for her, a beer for me. And then I realized I actually don't have made it in time for my meeting. So I just told them to pack the food. We didn't even eat it from there. Ordered an Uber. And then I came over and then I did my meeting while she was next to me on the
Yeah,
couch.
because I realize she's here, but then I hear the way you're talking. I don't hear anything you're saying, but I hear that the voice it's not a seductive voice, and I'm thinking, is he talking like that on a date? When he's pulled, the voice should be different. It should be lower, more seductive, slower. And I'm thinking, hey, should I text him? Like, come on, dude, slow your voice. Like, what's up with the voice? But I think, yeah, but am I going to be the asshole for like telling you how to run your dates? And I was like, no, I'm not going to. And then I kind of thought, okay, I think he's on a work call. And I also thought, yeah, you probably pulled and had her wait while you do the work call. And that's what happened.
Yeah. Because they told her, hey, it's about like 15 minutes, about 20 minutes. Just come, I'll do the work call and then we'll head to the roof.
You never did, I think.
We never did head to the roof because after the work call, I was like, hey, let's get out of here. My roommate like will make noise for him. So then we go over to my room. And then when we get to the room, it's just like fucking like on, off. At some point, I'd mentioned massage. This is like in the last 30 minutes of venue one, I was talking about how I'm good at massaging, and she's trying to ask me, hey, so how do you please women? And I'm like trying to play coy and say, I don't know, like,
I'm a virgin.
I was like, I'm just really good at massages. That's really what I do. Like, that's my specialty. Have you ever had a massage? Have you ever done a massage? She's like, no, but maybe you can teach me one day. And I'm like, okay, maybe. So when we go back, she was like, hey, I want a massage. And I'm like, check. And I'm like, all right, you need to take your top off.
Mm-hmm.
So she takes her top off, but there's a bra. And then I'm like, you need to take your bra off too. Otherwise it's going to get lotion all over it. And she's like, no, I don't want you to see my boobs. And like when she took off the bra, she actually was hiding her boobs.
She was what?
She was hiding her boobs.
Yeah, that's...
So I told her, okay, all right, just face down. Don't worry, just face down. Do the massage. Now top is off, but bottom is still on.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do that.
So how's she reacting to the massage? Is it like neutral or like
she's
melting?
Like into it.
She's into it. But okay.
I'm like, all right, yeah, this is definitely gonna happen, 100%. But I'm like, how do I maneuver this? Because I need to take my own stuff off. So I'm like, you know what? You have to do a massage for me too. So that gives me a good excuse to take my shirt and undershirt off. I get the massage, and then like eventually, because she's straddling me from behind, and then I tried to move her. At some point, I'm like, you know what? Come here. And now we're facing each other, and I'm just trying to make moves. At some point, I even do hand on dick, and she's like, ooh.
Oh.
But she was not ooh enough.
It's not ooh enough, yeah.
And I'm like, motherfucker. So, now, of course, the bedroom light was on, and it's like this like super bright thing. I really put on the music, trying to like R&B.
Oh, you know how I solved this? As soon as we went in the room on the night before, I cracked the bathroom door and put on the light there, but I never had the room light on in the room.
Yeah, but you were watching a movie, so it made more sense, right? When you moved to
but it doesn't have to make sense.
So what I ended up doing, I noticed the light was bright. I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I know that in prior dates, like in New York and everything, one of the things that fucked shit up was because it was too bright.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't my actual apartment with someone. It was an Airbnb or something. So what I did, I did the same thing. So I cracked open the bathroom door, put on the light. I'm like, you know what? It's too bright. I'm going to turn off this one. We'll just leave that one. Now, at least I got some darkness. I'm like, maybe she'll be more free. So what happens next? What happens next is, I was trying to escalate, trying to like lick her nipples. She wasn't about it, but she was trying to like bite my nipples. She was basically playing with me, but I couldn't get it the other way around. And then at some point I kind of like roll off.
Yeah.
I roll off. I had to roll off a few times and like basically be passive, but I roll off and then I close my eyes, but I'm not sleeping. But then she's like lying on my chest, and then she starts falling asleep.
And I'm
like trying to wake up, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, so the last time that I got really frustrated, this was many years ago, when a girl was like I couldn't, like, it was kind of there, but not there. I got really reactive. Well, not reactive, but I was like, hey, you know what? Let me just get you a ride home. And I sent her home, right? But I know from a previous date that I actually told the girl, hey, you know what? How about you sleep over? And like, she got comfortable. And like, when I switched off the light, like 15 minutes later, I tried to kiss her again. And then it was on, like, sex happened.
Yeah.
But then I remember the mistake where I was like, I completely forgot about that. And I sent the girl home. So this time I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me, I remember how this happened last time. Let me just tell her, hey, stick around. And then I'll try to make the move. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Lights are off and everything. She'll like change her mind. But yeah, so she falls asleep for a bit. And I'm like staring at the ceiling, like, fuck my life. Fuck my life. I'm like, okay, what's the thing I could do for my ego now? Send her home and be like, all right, I send her home, and at least I can be like, yeah, I sent her home.
Yeah, I won. Which is not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to just be like, fuck this, go home.
Yeah, so I was like,
bad.
I was evaluating how good of a seducer am I here. Should I just be? Am I being a bitch if I like just let her stay here and do this to me? And I'm trying to like balance that out. So at some point I'm like, you know what? Okay, my options are I could send her home, try to set up a second date, which is gonna take way more time, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let me just keep her here. Maybe I could try to bang her in the morning. I could try.
Yeah.
No guarantees here, but I could try. So yeah, I just kind of like lie there facing the ceiling. And then at some point I actually do wake her up and I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's get you home. And she's like, what time is it? I'm like, it's 1 a.m. I'm like, it's like, okay, give me a second. And like, she's like struggling to get up and I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. You know, you can stay. I felt a bit of remorse and I didn't want to actually get out of the bed. I was so tired. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Here, like, it's hot, get under the covers. And she's like, do you have a shirt? And I'm like, I got a tank top. She gets the tank top on, takes her bottom off. And I'm like, yes, this might actually happen. I spent the whole night trying to make it happen. And then I gave up. And then the power cut out and it was too hot. And then I fell asleep, and then this morning woke up and I was trying to salvage this. And this is about when you woke up and I got out of my room and you're like, did it happen one day? I'm like, no, bro, I'm still trying to save this. And then she was like, hey, we should take a shower together. And in my mind, I'm like, this chick is playing with me. Like, I don't want to take a shower because I'm just going to have a hard on like the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, this year, it has not happened this much. I don't think it's going to happen in the last few minutes. Still did the shower. Didn't happen. Yeah. Grabbed my dick, played with it, didn't happen.
Okay.
But to be fair, I think it was really more of a comfort thing because like the whole time
I have notes on that. Yeah.
The whole time she was straddling me, but then she was like, you know what? I feel like I need more connection. I feel like I don't know too much about you. I know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't get the comfort thing cracked. And I was like, you know what? I need to cut my losses now. Sunk cost fallacy. Let's call this. So after the showers, walked her over to the exit, got a very cheap ride home, which she chose. She chose the ride. I paid for it. And yeah.
A motorcycle taxi. Oh,
yeah. She doesn't live too far, so it almost made no sense to get an Uber. And then I was like, well, that's that. I get my life back.
And 10 minutes later, we started recording this conversation.
10 minutes later, yes.
So, okay, yeah. You want my feedback?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so a few things I would have maybe done differently. It's obviously she's very on.
Yeah.
But when they're so on, I think, when the date in general is so on, I think the risk is that there is that connection part missing, that the comfort part. It's so on, but then you deal with there are two options. Either it's like you arrive and it's like it's in, like you walk in the door and you fuck,
or you just fight,
or you just you have LMR. And I just just for safety purposes, I like to slow it down a little bit and have a bit of a serious conversation, just a little bit, yeah. But the way, but I think here something that I saw on all three lays, although my lays were not from Daygame, your date was from Daygame, so it was different. But date is a date, so with all three of them, I needed to sort of play around with the beliefs about tradition, religion, because they have a lot of very traditional beliefs here. With the ones I went out with, and they really believe that shit. And it was almost like with all three of them, I needed them to make a logical decision that they're gonna do this. There was no, you could turn them on, and then they had a very strong willpower to stop themselves.
Yeah, amazing.
And I needed to like really play around with like, oh yeah, people have all these traditions here, but when you realize that it's who told you all these traditions, who told you all the things you believe? I mean, like Jesus, your mom, family, society. And then again, and I think that was very, very important, like on all of my dates, because there's always like this, the logical part in their brain was always there, stronger than I've seen in other places.
Yeah. I have to say, I did notice that. I was like, man, this is like the strongest self-control I've seen ever.
Here, it's legit. Like like you don't see this normally in the West, where there's like on off, and she's like, I don't usually do this, but then she's like giving you head 5 minutes later. Whereas here, you like, it's a logical decision they have to make, and then as soon as they make it, all of a sudden the LMR goes away. Not really, but like then you have normal levels of LMR, like the typical ones.
Yeah.
Another thing that I kind of, about sending her home, I wouldn't have done that 1 a.m. thing. I would have done sort of like either pick one or the other one, just because I think it's a good idea to let her to stay over and then try again in the morning.
When you say pick one or the other, which is
like basically if you want to send her home, send her home.
Oh,
if
yeah.
You don't, like, just, and if she's staying over, then let her stay over. Who cares,
Yeah. I was like, well, in my mind, I was like, am I being a little bitch? Am I being bitch slapped here? Half the time, I'm like, am I being bitch slapped?
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. It's overthinking and just like, just fuck it. If she stays over, she stays over. Go to sleep, try in the morning. But another thing I think, so the way I look at kind of, and I think this is the most important part, because the rest is okay. You can kind of fuck it up and then, whatever. But you can still save it. But there's like a thing that's harder to save. And that's, if you hit the same wall multiple times and nothing works, I stop trying.
Yeah.
And I have her stay over without trying until the morning.
Yeah.
Just build comfort. And then maybe she feels comfortable in the morning, or she comes back the next time. And then because I think here, after, trying all night, she might, by the way, still easily come back. Like, I think you can still meet her another time outside, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I think that's totally doable. I would just stop after hitting a wall a few times, just so that she feels, hey, if I come back,
yeah, I'm not gonna be.
It's not
pressured.
gonna pressure, because it almost never works. This, like, it sometimes it does, but like it works at 4 a.m. in the morning, but you started at like midnight and you're like 4 hours in and can't even get hard anymore. Like,
No, yeah, you're right with the you have to roll off, otherwise there's always that thing of like, well, this guy's not gonna stop if I like.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a boundaries thing. It's like, will you respect the boundaries?
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I think she was on. She just needed maybe a little bit more comfort, help with her beliefs and whatnot, and then
I believe all
she would be so happy in the morning. Oh my God! Finally, I got some D.
At some point, I was like, should I use robots? Like, are you gonna regret this? Which will you regret more? But I was like, I don't even know how to do this setup, because there are a lot of times when you have the theory, but if you don't have the setup, it comes off weak. Like if you don't have the delivery, if it's not whatever, it then also comes off weak. So I was like, you know what? Let me not try something new that I haven't worked the delivery for.
Yeah, but how are you gonna work it?
I don't know.
You try it,
I don't know.
and then you see what happens, and
just be like random. Hey, what are you gonna regret more? Not fucking me or fucking me?
Yeah. Like, it worked. One time I tried it. Or I think I tried it before one time as well. But no, that's why I kind of like conversations like this, because I think in a dating course on datingcourses.com, you sort of, I sort of explain the model and all the steps, right? Yeah. And in the online coaching program, we've done also like a lot of the kind of step-by-step stuff, both for dates and LMR and all of that stuff. But there are things that are like small tips and tricks that you can't really explain as a technique. And then when you have a conversation about, hey, what actually happened and what can we learn from this, I think that's when you can talk about, hey, how does this actually work in like a real life situation? So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so very some facts. The last time she had sex was a year ago, as they all have.
Yeah, typical here.
And then what else? So that was the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all about the breaking those beliefs, and then and then helping her make that logical decision. Unfortunately, which seems like a really hard thing to do. Actually, like it's like a really, you're walking a very thin line all the time, and but it's I don't know. For me, it's a very fun game to play.
Trying to figure out how to get
Yeah,
past
because
it.
lately, I don't get it in like most places I go to anymore. It's just if she's on, she's on. You don't get a lot of LMR. So here you arrive and you're like, oh my god, like I get to play this game again. This is so fun. Okay, great. Anything else you want to add to this?
Just curious, how does this compare? Okay, I know people say that. I think you've said this before. You can always bang rations. There's no LMR. But am I actually curious? How does this compare to your prior experience when you did get LMR from like Eastern Europeans?
From which country? The Ukrainians, for example.
FSU, yeah. Just say
yeah. So Ukrainians are so first of all, I haven't daygamed in Russia. I've only met Russians abroad, and usually, you need to build comfort with them and all of that stuff. But usually not like. It's LMR, but if you are at the level where you are, like you can deal with it. Like it's just like, it might be harder for a beginner, but like
it's not necessarily beliefs. What?
No, it's more of like a typical LMR you see anywhere else in the world. Like nothing more complicated. Whereas with Ukrainians, and I've spent 3 months in Ukraine. One of those months you were there. We did, by the way, guys, we did 2 podcast episodes, the Ukrainian struggle, and then which was about how we really struggled to get laid on dates in Ukraine. I went, I think,
7
on 8
dates?
first dates,
Yeah, and
7 or 8 first dates where we didn't get laid.
I'd never seen you so frustrated. And I was like, oh my god, this guy sucks too. I was like, I don't suck so bad. Like Robert sucks just as bad.
Yeah,
okay,
of course,
that's nice.
Of course, and it was absolutely terrible. It was just, but then like I cracked it. Like I fucking cracked it. And in the next podcast episode, it's how I cracked it. And the difference there was, I think the logic was even stronger than here. So what I learned is you have to filter. Like it's not gonna, like if she's super serious, it's not gonna change
anything.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change what she like, and so you have to filter out these like the ones you're not gonna bang. You gotta get rid of them fast. Like
how did you filter? How do you? I
escalated.
Okay,
and it's sort of like you take it or you leave it, and that's it. Like for example, in these podcast episodes, by the way, guys, I highly suggest listening to them just for like understanding last minute resistance and things like that, and kind of how you can crack cities. It's a really interesting kind of before and after. There, for example, I went on a date with one chick and she's just being super princessy, like, oh my god, so princessy. And she fucking orders some food on top of everything. We go to a bar without asking me, whatever. Like I don't care about that, but chicks don't normally do that, unless you go for like a restaurant. Anyways, and she looks at the dish and she doesn't like how it cuts with a knife. Like it's too tough, and she sends it back before even tasting it. Like, how princessy are you? And she was already a princessy. When she did that, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I have a nice series on my laptop. I was watching Preacher at the time. I was like, I would much rather be in my apartment watching this series than deal with this. And I just started I just went nuclear. I escalated. When she said something stupid, I just ignore it. I simply didn't respond to dumb questions.
Did you just keep quiet, or did you just change the topic?
Yeah, I just didn't answer. Like, just stayed quiet. Ignored her question. I became a bit more of a dick. And I said, okay, let's go to another place. And then we go there. They said, no, let's go have this beer at my place on the balcony. You basically, the attitude was you go along with this or you go home.
Yeah.
And I think she was the girl, she was the reason why I had to take antibiotics for a month. Yeah, because finally not using condoms caught up to me. And but yeah, so there in Ukraine, there was no logical thing. Here it's a logical thing. It feels like they have to make a logical decision that they're going to do this. Whereas there it was about building a lot of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Like a typical build attraction, build comfort, it happens. It just took a bit more work to build that comfort there. So it was different. Here, you don't need as much comfort, but it feels like you need to play around with these beliefs, with the traditions they have over these years, and kind of from society, religion, and all of those things. So that's the main difference. Is kind of where does the resistance come from? Traditions, which make it a logical decision, or comfort, because she usually goes on more dates. So and here, what another thing that's different here is, so from here, local guys are like kind of assholes here, like 3 girlfriends, 3 wives, not being calibrated a lot of the time. I hear a lot of bad stories from chicks here. So obviously those are just bad examples. I'm sure there are a lot of wonderful guys here. Yeah, come on, don't lynch me. Yeah. Foreigners, a lot of foreigners are a bit too direct or a bit too boring. So I think when you're a decent guy who like has communication skills, you're normal, you know how to communicate with women, which is game basically. That's what it is. You know how to communicate with women and how to seduce them without sleazy shit. So that just makes you so much better than the competition. That I think that's what it also makes it different. She likes you so much that she just needs to change her beliefs about whether having a one-night stand that is something she's never had before, whether that's okay. Because the last chick I slept with, she hadn't had sex for a year, and then she broke up with her boyfriend, and with the last guy she dated him for a year before having sex with him. So ridiculous. And there are stories like that where the chick hadn't had, like the previous one I think hadn't had sex for 2 years, I think. So yeah, it's a bit of
crazy. Yeah.
Anyways, that's the story.
Yeah, and just one more thing is I realized a lot of the date model and everything is very similar to New York. So what I can say is, if there's anything I've learned, it's if you can figure out your day game model, you probably can make it in most places, plus a little tweaks here and there, but it's pretty standard. Even the objections I got when I did what day game approach, like, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, motherfucker, I thought things would be different when I came here, but I'm like, no, same exact shit. Same. Like, I thought my country was gonna be different. It's same shit.
Of course. I've been telling over and over again that day game is 90% the same.
I always thought it would be different. I'm like, no, this is like Western shit. This is not like...
No, of course, here different bottlenecks, different challenges.
True.
But of course, it's much easier here to get leads. Like, just they're just on when you stop them. That's the difference. But further down the line, dude, I think that's definitely the same stuff. When I've been telling for years that day game is 90% the same wherever you go, I haven't seen big differences anywhere. The important part, though, is that the 10%, the remaining 10% is like, if you crack that, you can do really, really good in a city. You can destroy the city. But if you're good in one city, you'll be doing okay almost everywhere you go, unless you're good here and then you go to New York City. That's not going to work.
Kind of ones.
Yeah, but if you're good in like a regular westernized city, like anywhere in Europe, meaning EU, we're not talking about kind of further. Even Balkans, actually, if you're good in these places, or US, like, you're okay. Like, you're good. Yeah. Even Argentina. So yeah. Okay, that's it. Okay, and so now we're here for part 2 of this story. After we ended the previous story with hey, these are some things that maybe work here. Let's try to implement them in your future dates. And then you did, and magic happened. What happened?
Yeah. So obviously, what I did this time is I spoke to you and you gave me some advice about what you were doing to you'd experienced the same resistance I had, but you found a way through it. And one of the things you did was by challenging their beliefs and giving them alternative beliefs to consider instead of just what they were.
I should become a cult leader.
You probably already are. Somewhere. But in challenging the beliefs, you do have, I guess in this society, there's a lot of restrictions. There is like, hey, either religious restrictions or upbringing from parents where you have to have, well, basically any sex that's outside of any marriage or any long-term relationship is pretty much becomes a bit of a taboo. And so one of the things you mentioned was that when you're on the date, you bring up the Western style of dating, which is like, hey, we don't need to have all these restrictions. We just kind of like, you meet somebody, you kind of click, then you decide, hey, let's go out on a date, and you feel out the vibe. And if you like each other, you're like, all right, let's do another date, or let's go back to mine. And if you're feeling like the vibe's still good, then you're like, all right, we'll be intimate. And kind of that's how it is. You just kind of go off of the connection and how you feel about being with the other person. But that's a stark contrast to here, where it's like, even if you have all of that, it's still going to be like, nope, can't do it. Jesus told me don't do it. Or whatever other thing is in there. But yeah, so you mentioned that you would bring up in the date the Western, you'd somehow find a way to bring up how Western dating is, or whereby you don't necessarily have all these limitations, and there's a lower barrier to actually being sexually expressive. And so what I did on my date, I actually did find opportunities where I was able to ask about what the dating culture is in Uganda, and then to contrast that with how the dating culture is in the US, or London for that matter. And so that was just planting the seed. And the funny thing is that when I told the girl this, the girl was in the date, she was like, yeah, I also am like really into, like, I'm all about the vibe, right? Like, you know, on like in my mind, I'm like, cha-ching.
But they say that,
Yeah,
they're all
it's
about
like,
the,
yeah, I'm
they
all about the
agree.
vibes, no connection. I don't need all the, like, all these rules are just restrictive. Yeah.
But that's all talk.
Well, you're spoiling the surprise. So anyway, well, this girl was really into me, because like, even when I met her, like, the touch escalation was already there, right? She was very touchy. She actually, when her friends were leaving her, because I met her in a lounge kind of bar kind of thing. None of us drank, so it was basically sober, everything. But she pretty much ignored her friends to hang out with me. Or our friends left, and like, she was like, yeah, just come hang out with me. So like, the vibe was there, we're bantering, flirty, everything was, the dynamic was great. So in my mind, I was like, this is 100% definitely guaranteed. Famous words. But anyway, so we get back to mine. This time I planted the seed. And again, I remembered that one more thing you mentioned was, even when you are on the bed, even when you're still making out, even when the escalation is going up, that one, there's the back off, and then two, you have to go into logical mode. Like, there is no trying to change the mood. Like, you're not going to kiss her neck and all of a sudden she'll be like, all right, you know what, to change my mind.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. So that's what I kind of did with the first date I had, where I was like, all right, we'll try to find a way to escalate this. Like, there's a point of no return. Didn't happen. And in this case, I had to play it really cool. And also, like, I did bring up the thing that, hey, you know what? Why do you have all these restrictions? Because actually, her rule was like, you know what? I decided for 6 months, I'm not gonna have sex with anybody. And I'm like, why 6 months? Like, I just made the decision 6 months. And then she asked me, so when are you leaving? And I'm like, well, before January. And it's like, I'm like, because it has 6 months that I've ended in January. I'm like, you know what? It's like 2 weeks to January. You should just probably bring it a little bit closer. You've made it this far.
Yeah.
It's just like, no. All right. So I back off. And I had to back off and then like be like, okay, so what's the restriction? I literally had to just ask her, hey, what's going on in your mind? So that I could just figure out like where the problem was coming from. And, so yeah, we did that back and forth. I just went fully logical. I would chill. I could see from the expression that she was just at conflict. It was really, really turmoil. And she literally said, you know, I'm having like a crisis right now. And I was just there chill. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, if you want to leave, you can leave. Maybe you don't want to, but you can leave. I'm not gonna try to force you to do anything.
You're sort of giving her, you're not pushing.
Yeah, no.
The door is open, you're not being pushy. You're
Not at all.
escalating, you're doing all these things, but it's not like you're being this super horny little boy who is gonna die if she leaves.
Yeah.
You know, it's very consensual.
Yeah, I was very standoffish, but I tried to ask to make sure that each time that like there was a pause, I just knew what was going on, which I usually never do. I try not to bring up
the rules here are different,
because the girl will be like, well, this is not great or whatever, right? Or like, I didn't even bother saying, oh, this is we shouldn't be doing this or whatever. I didn't bother. I was just kind of like, hey, what's going on? It was the most logical conversation I ever had, which was like, how is this sexy at all? I don't know. But so I think at peak turmoil, she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go home. And I'm like fully naked on my bed. She's still dressed. Well, not fully dressed, but mostly dressed. And I was like, okay, cool. So I put my pants back on, I put my shorts back on, and then I just looked at her and I was just waiting. I was like lying on the bed, she was standing, and I'm just eye contact. Then eventually she stops standing and then just like goes to the bathroom, comes back, takes her top off. And happy days. That was it. But it took about 30-ish to 40 minutes of that back and forth, back and forth.
Normal.
Yeah. And of course, because time had passed, I was just like, I just stay over. So
yeah. So and when she came out of the bathroom, any more challenges, last minute resistance, anything like that, or everything was
no,
still
she
sailing?
actually lay down next to me, started kissing me, and then I noticed she was taking her bottom off because her top was off. She was taking her bottom off. At some point, I'm like, she's really like, how like when you're trying to undo your button while making out with a girl, but you don't want to like stop the making out because you want to like make sure that the pants come off. It was kind of like the same thing. And at some point, I was just like, let me just give you I'm like, you know what? Let me give you a hand here because it was like really like tightly on, right? It was like, definitely this is not going to easily come off.
She probably put them on intentionally.
And I have been on many dates where the girls came in like either a onesie, right, or a leotard.
But she had a onesie, right?
She had no, it wasn't a onesie.
Someone had a onesie. You said
she had a onesie.
Yeah, you told me. Oh, she had a onesie, and it was like a complete mess.
It was kind of like a onesie. Yeah, it was a onesie. It was a onesie. Yeah, and it was just you can't unzip this in any way. Like literally, the person has to consciously take it off. But yeah, then I was like, let me help you. And that was it. And then the next morning, while we're having breakfast, we're out up on the rooftop, and I was like, okay, so do you regret last night now? And she's like, nope. She's like, I don't. I was like, well, you seem like you were like in so much time. Like, you know what? Yeah, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so interesting because you didn't have sort of the last minute resistance where, and that's the biggest, by the way, that's the biggest takeaway we've had here, I would say, at the end of this trip. We're going to probably do like another podcast with all the takeaways because you're still here for a few days and we have some things to go over. But I think that's one of the biggest takeaways is that here there is another level. There's another tool in a toolbox, which is having that logical conversation, which is contrary to any advice that is being given in this kind of dating industry and by me as well. I almost never do this, but and it was like so that's basically what happened. Very nice. So guys, I hope this was helpful to kind of see that hey, there are more things can happen in very different ways. And then we're going to do another podcast episode probably soon where we talk about the takeaways from all of this trip, because this is one thing we learned, but we learned something very, very, we're going to talk more about kind of these conversations about Western dating versus dating here, and how we sort of see the different ideas. Again, I started calling it inception. We're sort of planting ideas in your mind, and then later that becomes useful. So we're going to talk about that probably next week and on a different podcast. That's it for this one, I guess. That's it for this time. I hope you learned something. So go out and test these ideas. And if you want to join me on a similar adventure, and then as I said before, I have one coaching spot left available in January in Mexico. You'll find all the information about how coaching usually works, the approximate pricing, etc. by clicking the link in the description. And there you'll also be able to schedule a call so we can get to know each other, kind of talk details. You can ask any questions you have about coaching, and we can both decide whether this is a good idea for you. So hopefully, see you soon.